The team we're going to talk about next, the Denver Broncos, their win total opened at 7.5. We bet over. Teddy Bridgewater has been named the starter. Their win total is now 8.5. So let me say this. I think they made the wrong decision. And the reasoning for that is very, very simple. You have a roster that with the right quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, who is rumored to be in play, could win a Super Bowl. Teddy Bridgewater ain't winning you a Super Bowl. He could have a wonderful season. He is not winning you a Super Bowl, but he will probably keep you from being dramatically terrible, in which case you have a worse shot at getting a good quarterback next year. Drew Lock, you do not know. You invested a lot of time in Drew Lock, and you should play Drew Lock and find out whether he can be Josh Allen or whether you need to move on. But if he does play poor enough for you to move on, you'll probably have a better draft pick. That said, if you bet the over at 7.5, which we did, I feel fantastic today. I feel absolutely fantastic about Teddy Two Gloves, your boy, captaining the 8-win Denver Broncos.
Yeah, this was always the thing that I imagined, with Minnesota was, Teddy on a rookie deal with a ready-made roster is a Super Bowl contender. The problem is he's not necessarily on a modest deal, right? If you look at the positions, Bridgewater was, where's Teddy currently? It's not as bad this year at $11.5 million. So that's okay. You're right at the top of what a rookie quarterback would make. You of course can't build around that, because if he plays well enough for you to make a deep playoff run, you're paying him, right? So there's that aspect of it. A couple things that are different for me though now is I don't think Bridgewater's quite as, he obviously, after missing multiple years, I don't think he has the upside at all. The other thing is, we've seen Pat Chahrouri's been hit or miss. I'm higher on him than most, but I have to see it a little bit there. And then it's this fact, you're in the AFC West, right? All three quarterbacks are significantly better than Teddy Bridgewater is. And that just limits the upside, right? If you're not in a position to have home games in January, you better have Tom Brady as your quarterback, right? Or you better have, a guy that just gets hot at that time, Eli Manning. We give Eli Manning shit, but his ceiling is pretty damn high. You're not winning road playoff games with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, and you're very, very likely not winning that division with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. So to me, you're going to be in that 8-win range, and that's a terrible outcome for you, given that you're probably going to have to move on from him. And the alternative is a really expensive veteran quarterback. But even if it's Aaron Rodgers, do we really think that Aaron Rodgers at his age next year is going to be worth $40 million?
Yeah. No, you make a really good point, and this is this is actually a place that I think people can find a lot of value on PFF.com. Our power ratings tool, which is about to actually get a lot better, maybe tonight actually, when you're listening to this podcast. But if you look at the points above replacement to the spread that quarterbacks are worth, number one guy, Patrick Mahomes, 8.5. You then have Derek Carr, 5. You then have Justin Herbert, who's ascending potentially at 4.5. Teddy Bridgewater is 2 points worse than Justin Herbert, who's 4 points worse than Patrick Mahomes. What are we doing here? Do you get to hang a banner if you compete in a couple games with a couple of decent teams? No. You get to hang a banner if you can beat the Chiefs, and you ain't beating the Chiefs. You are just not beating the Chiefs.
You haven't beat Kansas City since you won the Super Bowl. And also, are you that this sounds crazy, but I'm over on the Raiders this year. I've said that a number of times. Are you even better than the Raiders?
And that's such a fascinating way to put it, because on paper, they're better than the Raiders at every fucking position on the field, except, and maybe I'm forgetting, one, okay, running back, sure.
Yeah. Sure.
But they're better than the Raiders across the board, except for quarterback. But that's how important. I mean, you think about it, Derek Carr is worth 2.5 points more than Teddy Bridgewater each time you step out on the field. That's a lot for other players to make up, even players as good as Justin Simmons, Cortland Sutton, Vaughn Miller, Jerry Jeudy, Vic Fangio is a defensive coordinator who's fantastic. It's sad, man. Like people will listen to this and maybe like, oh, you guys hate the Broncos, you whatever. No, I bet the over on the Broncos. I actually really like the Broncos. Like they're a fun organization. They got a lot of fun young players. Like this is just a very weird decision. What do you think it means? Okay.
Let me ask you a question really quick. If you're at pick 9, and let's say you internally have a second round grade on Justin Fields, because this is basically what happened, right? Like we can infer all we want, but the fact is at pick 9, they did not have a high enough grade on Justin Fields to take him, right? We can agree or disagree with all of that, right? But let's assume that that's what their internals say. What do you do?
I would take either Mac. I would take Mac Jones. I mean,
like that's what I'm saying. Like
it's people have a hard time comparing how good a player is to how valuable a player is, and I would go so far as to say this. I don't know what grade they had on Justin Fields. To say it was a second round grade, I think I would have some serious questions about the evaluation process.
Yeah.
But if you're considering starting Teddy Bridgewater, then you're in the market for a rookie quarterback. That's how that works. And I think Patrick Surtain could be great. I mean, he's looked great so far. But Patrick Surtain being great and you having no quarterback means Patrick Surtain is not winning a Super Bowl with Denver.
Because this comes back to my evaluators and decision makers thing, right? I know people who have like a third round grade on Justin Fields. The problem is there is a 0% chance, even if, and I respect this person's opinion, but there's a 0% chance that if I have a healthy collection of evaluators and decision makers, and some of those evaluators are external, like market based, right? Because that's how you end up with Alex Leatherwood at freaking 19 is when you don't consider, right? In my opinion, I think that's where it goes wrong, right? Where it's, if every single person in that building if the average evaluation of Justin Fields in that building meant don't take him at 9, I think you got to scrap the process, right? Like I think you got to start over. And otherwise, but I can see a situation where like there are dissenting opinions there, but then the decision maker just, thumb on the scale, we're going to take a corner, right? In my opinion, because this again gets back to that discussion, if you don't believe that Justin Fields is worth that pick, there is a 0% chance you take somebody else at that pick. And like, I understand that you can't trade all the time. I understand that not everybody wants to trade, but the freaking Eagles traded up to 11 to take Devontae Smith, 2 picks. There is a market to trade that pick, even if it's not for Fields himself, right? That's what I do, right? Because otherwise you just are, the opportunity cost is so immense to take a corner at 9, especially when you spent the offseason acquiring Kyle Fuller and Ronald Darby to go with an already pretty decent secondary.